Alright tubes, what's going on? Got something pretty interesting here for you today. I'm working on my truck here, and you guys might recall a video I did. It had to have been, I think it was about 2 years ago, where I had a check engine light on because of my fuel cap here. It was a gross leak in the Evap system, and I'll describe that in more detail in a minute. But anyway, at that point in time, my solution to the problem was attempting to replace the fuel cap, and it seemed like it worked. I replaced my fuel cap, cleared my codes, drove around, light didn't seem to come back on, so I thought I was in the clear. Unfortunately, a couple weeks after that, the light ended up coming back on. But anyhow, let me give you guys a quick primer on how the whole, or what and how the whole Evap system is in this and pretty much, not pretty much, any vehicle, modern vehicle is. This vehicle, along with just about every single vehicle on the road currently, runs on gasoline, which is stored in this tank right here. If you've ever been to the gas station, you notice that you smell fuel fumes, gas fumes, when your tank's getting filled up. That's because gasoline is a relatively volatile substance, which means, among other things, that it evaporates pretty quickly. Now, when gasoline evaporates, it produces fumes, and that's what you smell at the gas station. And so you may ask yourself, well, why do you only smell that at the gas station? And the answer to that is your Evap system. Now, eventually, someone, somewhere, at some point in time, decided that those vapors might not be the best thing to be emitting into the atmosphere. And so what they did is they developed these Evap systems in order to catch those fumes, store them, and then once the engine starts, burn them. Now, there are a variety of different ways of doing that, and they've certainly evolved over the years, but basically pretty much every system relies on the same basic principles. What you have is a fuel tank located somewhere under the vehicle, which is emitting vapors. Somewhere else, you have a charcoal canister, and all it is, it's a little black, usually black container, and inside of this container are like charcoal. So basically what they do is they have a line that runs from your gas tank up to this charcoal cylinder, and then another line that runs from your gas tank connected to that charcoal cylinder up to the engine. And so when your engine's not running and you've got gas tank just sitting there producing these vapors, the vapors will go up and they'll get stored in this charcoal canister. The charcoal will actually absorb the vapors and they'll just sit in there. And once you start your engine up, a valve will open up, and once this valve opens, the charcoal will get sucked by the vacuum of the engine, and it'll travel along the line from your charcoal cylinder up to your engine, and it'll just get sucked into the intake manifold and just get burned like every other, just like the rest of the fuel. Now, in the early stages of development for these Evap collection systems, that valve that I mentioned that opens and closes was it was a mechanical valve, and basically it was actuated by the vacuum produced by the motor. But as time went on, just like a lot of things in not just the automotive world, they went from a mechanical valve to an electronic valve. They also added the ability for a vehicle to actually test this Evap system and confirm whether or not it's working correctly. I think the standards are even tighter nowadays, but as when this truck was made, they can actually detect a leak as small as 20 thousandths of an inch, which is very tiny, by the way. However, the code that I have on the truck here is P0455, and what that means is it's a gross leak. That means it's a very large leak. The Evap system, when it checks to see if it's actually drawing a vacuum, it's basically reading zero vacuum, 0 psi. So that means, as you know, was the first thing that I checked, your gas cap could be off, or you've got some other large leak somewhere, and so that's what the goal is to find today, hopefully. So what my game plan here is whenever I'm standing outside of the truck here, towards the back of it here, or if I'm up standing in the bed loading, or whatever I'm doing, anytime I'm standing around the truck, back in this area near the fuel tank, it's actually on the other side over there, but I can always smell fuel fumes. Since we know that there's something going on right here by the fuel tank, what I want to do is I want to see if there's a way for me to get up underneath, up inside of here somewhere, and see where all these connections are with the lines that run to each individual component. And my hope is that maybe it'll be as simple as one of them being just totally disconnected. That would definitely be ideal, although I'm not going to get my hopes up though, because we all know when we get our hopes up, it never ends up being that simple. Alright, so first things first here, we're under the truck here, and just to give you your bearings, this is the rear axle right here. It's the differential. Got your spare tire right there, and sitting right above it, that's our charcoal canister. That's what we're talking about there. And one of your solenoids, just as an FYI, the vent solenoid is actually right up there. It's located right on the charcoal canister itself. And I already replaced that at one point in time, so I already know that that's not the problem. But then the only other really thing that's worth noting here is that line right there going to it. And I just I got up in there and took a pretty good look at it. I didn't see any problems. It's connected good and tight there, so I'm going to say that that is not our problem, and we're going to have to keep looking. So now we're on the other side of the truck here, and I'm just taking a look at the filler neck here, and you have your filler neck here and then this this vent line right here, and both of them look good to me. I can't see any signs of any cracks or anything that would be a leak otherwise. This connection here, there's a hose clamp, that's all good. And if the filler neck itself had a leak, I think I would see fuel dripping out of there when I was getting the truck filled up. So I don't think that that's the problem either. So what that leads me to believe is it's got to be something right back in here, right behind that piece of frame in there. This is our fuel tank. You can't see it right now, but it runs along the frame. This is it right here, and it goes up there, and sitting right up in there where you see those hoses going down is where the fuel pump is, and also where all the connections are made for that evap. So if I can figure out a way to see what's going on in there, I'm really hoping maybe I'll be able to see something going on. Hopefully it's obvious. And believe it or not, obvious it is. I don't know how well you can hear me because I'm sitting on the other side of the frame that the camera's on, but I was able to kind of stick my head up inside the truck here and see everything. Right in front of you, I hope, is a line that's totally just totally gone, not hooked to anything. And if I move this out of the way, you can hopefully see where it's supposed to be hooked up to. But either way, I'd say this is a case closed. That's our problem. That is definitely a gross leak, and I would say if we pop that hose off, find a good replacement, and hook it back up both ends where it's supposed to go, we should have a solution. Alright, so we got something in there, and you may say it looks a little bit long, but I decided to leave it that long, and the reason being is that I didn't want to kink it too tight, since I don't have a real nice 90-degree bend in there like the original one did. If I bend it too tightly, it will kink the hose and lead to other problems. So I'm going to leave it the way it is, but I think we're ready to clear our codes and test her out. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and clear the code here, and I figured I would show you guys this. I'm not sure if I've ever shown this in a video or not, but this is my little Bluetooth OBD2 adapter that I use to read my codes as well as clearing them. And these things are pretty easy to come by, but I'm going to put a link in the description for you guys to check it out. This one I bought probably 5 years ago, and I've been using it ever since. It's really great. So check the description for a link to that if you guys are interested. But anyway, it's real simple to use. All I do is I take it and I plug it into my OBD2 port down here, and they're very conveniently located on the Rangers. I come over here and I turn my ignition on. And then I just come over to my my phone here and I open up my Torque app. Now there's a number of different apps that allow you to do pretty much the same thing that I'm doing here for free, but this is just the one that someone recommended to me and I've been using ever since. It works quite well. So I'll just go into here, you hit the little menu button. I'm on an Android here of course, but you hit that little thing, we click on fault codes, we hit clear logged faults, gives you a little warning. You obviously don't want to do this as you're going down the street. You hit OK. And theoretically now our check engine light should be off. Now if we look here, the light's still on, but the only reason for that is that I have the ignition on but the engine off. So if we go ahead and start the engine, it should go away. So at this point in time, I think that's going to be it. I think we found the problem, but we won't be sure until we drive for a couple days, couple hundred miles. So I'm going to put you guys on standby here and I'll let you guys know what the final result was. Alright. Hey Tubes, what's going on? It's been about 2.5 days since I cleared the code on the truck here, and I've driven it about 150 miles or so, a couple trips up and down the highway, a few around the town runs, and that usually is enough to complete a drive cycle and have it do all the diagnosis on the evap system and make sure it's good to go. And the check engine light hasn't come back on, so I'm going to say that that was a success. Now, of course, there is more to it if you have a different code. If you have a smaller leak, that can be a lot more difficult to pinpoint. But if you guys have any additional questions, if there was something that wasn't clear in anything that I said, or if maybe you're working on a slightly different job or slightly different vehicle and you're a little confused, drop me a comment and I'll do my best to help you guys out. As always, if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Check out the link in the description if you guys are looking for one of those OBD2 adapters, the Bluetooth ones. They're great. I love mine. Super convenient, super cheap. So that's a good option. And I think that's going to do it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. All right, tubes.